Good evening, everyone. Riley is not here tonight, and my name is Denis Serebryakov, and we're here at Crypto Bay. And today we have special guests here, CryptoChicks, and they're going to be talking about hardware wallets and the safest way to keep cryptocurrency. So, welcome.
Hello, everybody. I'm not actually here to talk about crypto wallets or hardware wallets. So we will have our presenter Konstantin talking about this in a few minutes. I'm here just to tell you a little bit more about CryptoChicks. Our company is female focused because we know, and everybody know, that there's in the blockchain space there is a problem. Yes, that's right. So there is a problem with the women representation, and we're doing everything to increase the participation of women in the blockchain space, because we believe this will bring technology up a notch and make it sustainable. In order to do this, we do different events and we do presentations, and we also run conferences and hackathons. And our next hackathon will be April 6 to 8 at Mars. So we partnered with Mars, an organization of this hackathon. This hackathon will be female competition in a blockchain, and we'll be running in 2 tracks. So we have two separate tracks, developer track and a business tracks. They will be judged absolutely separately. And developer tracks will, teams have to create applications and demonstrate them on the blockchain, demonstrate to judges and the audience. And business teams, they will have to build a kind of like a business on the blockchain without any programming, but the business model, write the financial plan, and so on. These are the competitions, and we also providing a free education for all female participants through our sponsor BlockGeeks. They have amazing courses online, so we're opening up these courses absolutely free to all participants. So if you would like to sign up, please go to our website, CryptoChicksHackathon.com, and sign up. Also, we will be running a conference at the same time where we're inviting all industry leaders, and these industry leaders are coming from all over the world. So we have people coming from England, from Italy, so lots of people from US. It will be local speakers as well, males and females. So they will be telling their experience, their businesses, like what they do in the blockchain. They will be running workshops. The workshops will be on artificial intelligence. They will be on investments. Also will be on crypto economy, on ICOs. So, all the topics that right now everybody's cared about in blockchain. So please come and participate. So tickets will go on sale this week. Also, the tickets can be bought through CryptoChicksHackathon.com. Thank you. And I want to invite Konstantin to talk about hardware wallets.
Hello, everyone. Now, I would like to talk about the hardware wallets, but in general, I would like to cover the private key security and why should we care about the private keys a lot. Lately, observing the space, crypto space, I can see that people don't pay enough attention to this problem. They more rely on like tools that they can find online, but I think the control of the private key is absolutely essential for blockchain. This is what makes it unique, and this is what makes it so inviolable. One thing I would like to start here to point out that this is not a religious war, because this is kind of always a very touchy subject, very emotional one. And because I'm going to compare the Bitcoin to traditional financial system. I just wanted to point out that my comparison is not about the good versus evil. It's just another tool. It's just another tool at our disposal to do certain things. All right, so let's see why the blockchain is so fundamentally different. And I would like to cover it from just a general perspective, avoid much of the technical details. So traditionally, we rely on the central authority. And this system works very well for us for many centuries. And there is nothing wrong with this system. It just has its own properties. And this and the property, and there are basically two properties: central authority, and it is well defined, and it is fast for us and quite convenient. And we will always ask, what's the intrinsic value of Bitcoin? Again, this is a very much emotional subject. People debate this, and this is exactly the same question: what's the intrinsic value of fiat currency? And if we really boiled it down and simplify it, the intrinsic value of fiat currency translates into the government, how stable the government is. The more stable the government, the more well-defined consensus rules, sort of speak, like constitution, the law enforcement, the more stable currency is. So what's intrinsic value of Bitcoin? It's very similar to our central authority, except the central authority in Bitcoin is really dictated by mathematical rules. That's the only difference. Instead of constitution, we use the mathematical rules in the software to define this. So why we use the central authority? Why we use banking systems? There is pretty much two fundamental things. Like if we boil down to the very simple thing, is the convenience. Yeah, it's very convenient. We're used to it. We know how it works. It's not very difficult for us to deal with. And the second is a very important property that people usually underappreciate, is delegated responsibilities. We delegate our responsibilities to the central authority to provide security for us and make our life easier. We don't have to think about the complexity of the financial system. We just go to the bank, we just swipe credit card, and it's done. We don't need to care about this. And if something goes wrong with the credit card, we always can call and roll back the transaction. That's the convenience that the central system provides to us. Right, so basically it is the banks provide the security, banks provide support for us. We always have place to call. Now, what is the special property of Bitcoin? There are quite a few things that people talk about, but I personally boil down to three. It's permissionless. It is censorship resistant, and it is decentralized. And if you think about those three properties, this is what makes Bitcoin unique. And if we don't use these properties, it doesn't make much sense to use it, really. Yeah, I don't want to go into the details of maybe why it is so important. In North America, it doesn't sound that much of important, yeah, because we pretty much have permissionless system. We all can open up a bank account, yeah. The government doesn't censor our transactions. At least I don't think anyone experienced it in the real life. And the fact that it's not decentralized doesn't really bother us at all, because it works very great for us. Yeah, but it is not the case for right, actually most of the places on Earth. All right, so and this leads us to the next question. So if we really value this decentralization, if we value the censorship resistance, if we want to operate our own finances, we basically, everything is boiled down to private keys. Yeah. So I'm sure most of you are more or less familiar how the Bitcoin works, or should I go through the high details? Anyone? The private keys, how the flow information goes. Bitcoin address and private key. Anyone? All right. So in this particular diagram, let's see, everyone basically holds the private key, and from this private key derives everything else. It's a public key, and then it can translate into Bitcoin address. And this is what basically the Bitcoin operates. Like network mathematically operates primarily in the public keys, and we use the private keys to unlock it. Every single time we do transaction and spend money, we basically unlock the box. And if we don't have this private key, we can't unlock it. But this means that anybody else cannot unlock as well. It means that only holder of the private key can command this. And this presents us with another danger. So if we lost the private key, we have no place to call. I think people really underappreciate the gravity of this situation of losing the private keys. Yesterday, by accident, I met the fellow who have been in Bitcoin very early stage. He was mining with his CPU. This is how early he was in the stage. So right now, he is in a little bit of a dilemma. He's sitting with Bitcoin wallet, 500 Bitcoins, no key phrase. He forgot his password. So he does not have, at the time, in the early stages, he didn't have really good recovery mechanism of the lost coins. So right now everything relies on his passphrase, and he forgot it. He just forgot it because it was randomly generated, and he had backup on his cell phone. His cell phone got destroyed, and right now he is scratching his head. So that's basically dangerous. Losing the private key, this is probably the biggest danger of operating with cryptocurrencies. And everything else derives from that basically assumption. So now I think we need to basically keep in mind that the ownership of the Bitcoin determines by the control of the private key. If you don't control private keys, really there is no point to participating into cryptocurrency. You can use it for speculation, or you can use it to do the payments, but how it is better than Visa? Visa works just fine. Like if you, for example, operate mostly on Coinbase, how it is better than Visa again? They control your private keys, they can censor your transactions. Sometimes you cannot call them because they are overwhelmed with the support and so on and so forth. And the second, it basically leads us, it is end user responsibility to learn and secure their private keys. And that's a fundamental difference between the crypto and the central fiat currency. It is our responsibility to provide the security for us. It's less convenient, but it gives us more freedom. So that's basically a fundamental trade-off. We have to learn how to deal with this. We have to take responsibility. Otherwise, it doesn't make sense, much of a sense. All right. So, and the rest of the presentation, I would like to go about in a high level. Preferably, I don't want to dive into like technical details. I would like to just present it in the way that non-technical people can use it and make decisions every day how to deal with this. With the options how we can store our private keys, how we can control it. Well, we have 5 broad options for the wallets. Okay, the first one is a paper wallet. That was the original one. They call it a cold storage. Second is the hardware wallets that I'm going to show how to operate and present in high level. If you don't have one, you will have a glimpse of what it looks like. The third one is mobile phones, probably the most widely used means of storing your crypto. The third one is desktop wallets, and the last one is the web wallets. So one question is in the audience. What is your preferred way of storing or accessing crypto? Is it the web wallet? Anyone? Okay, one. Desktop wallet? Anyone? No? Phone? Okay, so phone mostly. Yeah, hardware wallet? Who owns the hardware wallet? All right, so the people. Okay, so the most people had, and the paper wallet, the most. All right. Oh, exchanges control your private keys. Yeah, it's convenient again. It's very convenient to hold your crypto in exchange, I have to admit. All right, so I basically get the table in which I roughly compare the functionality of different wallets and what we can get out of it. So the first one, easy to transact. It's how easy we can go and send coins around. Yeah. The third one is security level, portability, and durability. All right, so the paper wallet. Paper wallet is probably the most secure one, but very difficult to transact. So as soon as you, in general, if you take the money out of paper wallet, you have to basically import it in some sort of a phone or some other types of wallet to transact. You cannot transact it directly. So as a cold storage, it's perfect. But it's not very useful during the transaction. So that's the security level is 3, it's the maximum. And by the way, it's 1 is like the poor, 2 is medium, and 3 is a high. So kind of simplify the decision making here. Not the portability. The paper wallets are very portable. Yeah, you can carry them around very easily. It's not a big deal. Durability, usually not, unless you make it out of steel. It is possible, people doing this. But again, if you have to use it after you forge it into steel, you have to forge another one. So not very useful from the durability standpoint. All right, the next one is a hardware wallet. Easy to transact. Not as convenient. You have to basically have access to the separate wallet, because the hardware wallet just holds your private keys, nothing else. There is not much of the functionality of this. You have to employ something else to do so. So that's why it is sort of medium. Security level is 3. It's high. The main property of the hardware wallet is the fact that your private key never leaves the hardware wallet. So that's the main property. This is why we want to spend money on those devices. Okay, portability. It's pretty portable, but again, you need to have a computer to transact. Yeah, but it is small. You can carry it. I have one here. It's not a big deal. Durability. They are pretty durable, relatively speaking, to the devices, because they're usually simple, and manufacturers put, I wouldn't say they are not indestructible, but they are pretty durable relatively to the other options. Okay, mobile phone. Easy to transact, probably the easiest to transact. It is always with us. We can use the camera to get barcodes. Yeah, probably the easiest way to transact. Security level. It's medium. It's more complicated than hardware wallet. Yeah, it's Turing complete, so there is a possibility of some malicious software living on your phone. It's hard, but it is possible. Yeah. So portability, very portable. It is with us all the time. Yeah, that's probably the most portable device they have. Durability is 2. Again, this complicated machinery. The probability of something goes wrong with your cell phone is way higher than hardware wallet. It goes dead quite often, relatively speaking. Yeah. Desktop wallet, probably the least attractive option. So easy to transact. 2. Yes, it's easy to transact again, but you have to be in front of your computer. Security level, probably the worst, because our desktops has the biggest attack surface. Yeah, everything is there. if someone is trying to get something, so desktop is definitely the way that people will get to, at least remotely. Portability, not very portable. I would say the laptop is more portable than your desktop, but again, it's still a very large device. It's not very convenient. We're not carrying it every day with us, not like a cell phone. Durability, again, way more complex, more moving parts, not very durable, the list. All right, so web wallets. And the web wallets, they are a little bit complicated beasts because we basically have two types of web wallets. One will be probably Coinbase. That's the most people familiar with. They look like a web wallets, but they are not. But they are full custodial services, meaning you're not controlling your private keys. And sometimes people don't see the difference in this. There are other types of wallet, like a blockchain info, for example, where you do control your private key. However, the storage of this private key is some sort of risky, and I will demonstrate where the risk is coming from a little bit later. Okay, so that's why the security level is 1. It's just primarily because you interact with the desktop and your private keys is traveling through the desktop, so to speak. Meaning that if someone has a keylogger or if someone has some sort of malicious software, there is a way higher probability that they can intercept your private keys. Portability is, it's very portable. Basically, you don't have to deal with this. Again, I should probably say 3. I should probably pay 2 because we still need to have access to the laptop or our desktop. Very durable. Hopefully, they have backups. Or at least we assume that they have a good backups, if they have been in business for a long time. And I would say for most of them have a very good backup and they serve a large number of users. So it is pretty durable in terms of we don't have to worry about that this will get perished at some point in life. All right. Okay, so this is, by the way, how paper wallet looks like. And the reason I'm showing this paper wallet is basically present another challenge, is complexity of storing those private keys. Boy, they're inconvenient. They were designed for computers, not for humans. And we really have hard time to remember those all gibberish that they put in there. So you can't really carry in your head. You have to basically keep it. Well, maybe someone can remember their private keys, but it's inconvenient for most of the people. All right, so how do we deal with this problem? Okay, so we basically create the solution for that. It's a mnemonic code. It's BIP39 from Bitcoin. And this is basically a standard. And this standard basically say, okay, I will take my private key and I convert it to 12 words or 24 words. And those are English words or some other languages. And then my wallet or my software will convert those 24 words to actual addresses, and we can take those 24 words, basically import in hardware wallet or web wallet, and basically have access to our funds. That's very simple. If anything I want to remember for most of the people is these 24 words. Very important, because what I observed, what people do when they're trying to open up the wallet, at least the web wallet, first thing it's ask you to do the backup, and people are like, later. Later. The second danger with 24 words is it is your private key. Meaning, if I know your 24 words, I owe you funds. So it is not quite like a password. It's more dangerous than a password. Because let's say someone get the your password on Coinbase. It's probably not a disaster, primarily because there is a two-factor authentication involved in the Coinbase if you set it up. and I suggest you to set it up if you did not. So they have to have a second factor authentication for this. So in this particular case, there is no second factor authentication. This is as raw as it gets. And let me show you how it works. So there is basically a calculator, online calculator, that you can put the 24 words. In my particular case, this is the 24 words that I use for my hardware wallet. And it immediately basically calculates the addresses. And you can see here is my address, my first address here, and this is my public and private keys here. It calculates pretty much immediately what it is, all of the addresses. And this is basically how wallet works, like at the back. Yeah. All of this complexity is usually hidden for us, but this is it's how easy to generate them. If I have 24 words, boom, I have access to it. It's not a big deal. It meaning that if someone was able to read those 24 words on your desktop, they immediately can siphon all your funds. Well, very fast. And we'll talk about this in a little bit details. All right, so 12 words, if they generate it, keep them secret. And by the way, you can generate them offline. You don't have to go and generate them on, let's say, hardware wallet, or you don't have to generate them on the web wallet. With the good entropy, you pretty much can generate it right here. And let me see, I'll get the 12. Generate. Okay. Let's say 12, a little bit. So by generating those 12 words, I basically create the private keys for me, and I create all these addresses. Right now, we have to keep in mind those words are specific, meaning about 2,000 words included in the standard. There is a checksum there involved, and there is more complicated math. They are not just random words. So if you do decide to generate them off outside of the let's say your hardware wallet or your web wallet, you can do it, but you need to get the good source entropy. In most of the cases, the hardware wallet manufacturers spend lots of time to provide a good source of entropy for generating of the 24 words. Okay, so we pretty much can work with them. All right. And this is basically a review how it works. There is pretty much 3 standards that defined our wallets. I don't think you will remember those standards, but one thing that just remember, this is the HD wallet. If you choose the wallet for yourself in the future, it's G wallet, and it's supposed to generate 12 and 24 words. If it happens like this, it meaning that you can take those words and recover them in different manufacturers or different wallets. For example, I have 2 different manufacturers here, one Trezor, one Ledger, identical private key, identical keywords. So if something happens with my Trezor, I don't have to even buy Trezor. I can get the Ledger and recover it. Or I can basically import it in some other software and recover it. This portability is very important. You don't want to generate something unique and then unable to recover it with other means. Again, like with this example of the earlier that I mentioned, if the guy had the 24 words of his recovery phrase, yeah, sitting somewhere in the bank, he can use any piece of software to recover it. But right now he has to deal with one piece of software that was created some time ago. Very challenging. All right, so Trezor hardware wallets, how they look. And this is basically Trezor, and this is a Ledger. I will talk about those 2 guys because they're most popular in the market. They are widely used, widely tested. They have been around for a long time. We do not have, as of today, any known vulnerability for them. And pretty much I would say today this is the only game in town. if you want to really keep your crypto safe. All right. Common cases of Bitcoin loss, private key loss. That's number one. People usually dig their own grave, meaning the possibility of private key loss is way greater than theft. Please study this a little bit. Spend at least a couple days study it. Right now it is way easier. Right now it is way easier. Think about the procedures where you're going to store those 24 keys if you decide to go and interact with this. All right. So private key theft, and this is the most sensational, and the people talk about this a lot, how other people will attack you. But reality, it doesn't happen that often. It does happen, but it doesn't happen that often. It primarily is because it's not as easy as people have tendency to portray it. So we have basically two types of attack. One is local and one is remote. And I would like to basically go and illustrate this local and remote attack on one of the example that was published on the Wired magazine. I don't know if you read this story about I forgot my PIN, an epic tale of losing 30,000 in Bitcoin. Have you read this article? All right. So this is very educational article because it covers two things primarily. This story covers two things. Well, number one, it covers the personal responsibility and private key loss, how the main hero lost it. And the second portion of how he recovered it. It is happy ending at the end here. But I would say it's happy ending with the salt, because he basically broke in his hardware wallet. And I will talk a little bit about how he did it. Right, so the story starts that, again, not really defining the security procedures, not thinking it through, doing it very fast. He bought some crypto, got the hardware wallet, and he basically put the recovery pin, took the paper, write it down the paper, and put it in the bedroom of his daughter. Upon his arrival, the paper is gone, and he asked the cleaning lady where it is, and she's like, I threw it away. I don't know, piece of paper, garbage. Done. And when he was setting his wallet up, again, security procedure. What is the most probable? Someone will guess your PIN, or you will forget your PIN?
You forget your PIN.
You forget your PIN. Yeah. So being too fancy with your security procedure really most likely will cause you more harms than good. If you decide to use the PIN, well, not if, you definitely would like to use the PIN. Do it something that is kind of a middle of the road. Don't be too inventive, but not be too obvious. Because the guy was too inventive, he forgot the PIN. And eventually, it took him several months. Well, I don't know, probably, I forgot in the article, it's probably months to recover it. All right, so how he did this? Local attack. The key points of this. The usually local attack with your hardware wallet is very targeted. The high chances the attacker knows you, because it needs to be in physical proximity to take the device. Yeah. So it's harder to execute. It's way harder to execute. It's just because we need to move in space, in real space, not in cyberspace. Expensive. So physical proximity, expensive to execute, requires special knowledge. So if the attacker does not know the PIN, he needs to possess a very special knowledge to break into those devices. Right now, it is usually quite expensive. There are means of dealing with the security hardware wallets and in general secure devices that store some password, but usually equipment cost in the millions of dollars, and usually people who do it, they professionally work with the semiconductors. Not a simple thing. And I don't want to go into details. There are several techniques for that, but Trezor and Ledger basically working on the preventing this. Attack surface is small. The opportunity for breaking into hardware is very rare. Like even if someone does it, it is rare. So how the guy did this in his article? So basically, he explored vulnerability in Trezor firmware version 1.4, and this is the this is the quote from the Trezor blog post about this vulnerability. When he said, "It is important to note this is not a remote execution attack, so someone has to physically possess it. To exploit the issue and attacking, we need physical access to disassemble Trezor device. In other words, they have to open it up. So you will know it is open. Again, it's not too complicated to open it because, again, it's plastic case. It's not made out of titanium. However, the Trezor seals the cases with a special technique, meaning that if I break the case, it will be, you will see that it's broken. It is impossible to do without destroying the plastic case. Yeah. So basically, and the technique there, don't want to go into details, but the vulnerability is not very simple to execute. Not very simple. It requires, again, special knowledge. Guys really got lucky because he was provided with actually special tools to do it. And there is a sort of a window opportunity to get a pin, and he execute everything right, happy ending. But again, this is a very rare case. As a matter of fact, I think this is the only known vulnerability for Trezor that was exploited this way. Ledger did not have the same thing, basically. All right, so the second type of attack, this is what you have to worry about, and this is the remote one. The remote attacks especially unpleasant because they are indiscriminate. In most of the cases, most of the scenarios, people exploit known vulnerability and they just basically send this all over the world and you just become victim accidentally. It means that the cost of the attack is very relatively low for the attacker. There is quite a tons of those attacks, but 99% of them are against the desktop and the browsers. Yeah. So that's why the desktop and the browser is the most insecure way of handling it. Okay, so the physical proximity is remote, again, cheap to execute. I can be just anywhere in the world. I can unleash it and infect millions of computers and see what happens. Again, it requires special knowledge. Constructing those kind of exploits not easy, despite what media leads us to believe. But again, it is possible. Attack surface is large. Again, we interact with the computers all the time. Right now, I would like to talk about the ledger receive address attack. This is probably the most common attack that you will experience, or possibly the attack that you might fall in the most likely if you operate the hardware wallet. Okay. And this is where the attacker will substitute your address in your browser. So how it is done? Okay, let me see. And in this case, I would like to just show you a little bit on the Trezor, if you haven't seen it before. All right, two things to remember basically about the Trezor. Again, so this is the physical device that we have to operate. In order to access our funds or transact with our funds, we need to get to the Trezor web wallet. And the difference between the other web wallet and the Trezor, your private key never leaves this device. So in order for you to interact, you need to plug it to the computer. And the beauty of this situation is you can do it with any computer. even if this computer compromised and infected. Because what attacker can potentially get out of it is not even your PIN. Yeah, they potentially get your addresses, because if they can read your screen, they will see the addresses. They potentially can substitute the address for you, but I will show you how it is basically done. So the first thing what happens, it's prompting for my PIN. And my PIN is always randomly, the order of the numbers always randomly generated on the Trezor. It means that even if you regularly use the computer that is monitored, people will never guess your PIN because it's always different order. So in my particular case, it's 1, 2, 3, 4. You don't see it, but and where is my? Oh. Okay, so in my case, it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Sorry, 6. All right. So when I put the PIN, it basically gets into my wallet. Right now, I don't have anything there. It's empty. That's why we don't have. I don't have funds. But if I have funds, it's basically with Query Bitcoin network. Again, by looking at this reconstruction at the back end and get the basically balance for me. All right. So if I want to receive the funds, the first things that I do, I have to basically look what is my address here. And you can, if you notice, it does not display address fully. So it basically forces me, and let's see if I can make it a little bit bigger. I think it is better right now. It forces me to show the address. And when I click on the show address, basically two things it shows me on my device, asking to confirm it. So you read the address on the device, you read the address on the screen, and if they're identical, you know it hasn't been substituted. Because this is the time that the address can be substituted. When you just generate the address and you give it someone and they send the funds and you call them, my funds never arrived, I did send you, oops, wrong address. Again, no support line, we can't really call Bitcoin network, please give my funds back. There is no phone number. Yeah. So, and when I confirm it on the device again, it will display the address. So everything that we do over the wallet requires confirmation on physical device. If you send the funds, require confirmation on physical device. If you change any security settings, it requires confirmation. So it is two-factor authentication. You have to physically interact with this. Someone sitting on my computer cannot do anything. They can observe it, they can see the address at the most, but they cannot really prevent us from, or stealing our funds, basically, accessing our private keys. All right, so let me see. Again, if I disconnect my device, it basically says forget it. Well, I'll just say forget it. All right, how this ledger looks like? Very similar, very similar. Again, ledger looks the same, a little bit different design. You have a little bit simpler PIN code. Usually it's for ledgers you install the wallet. And again, I have to put the PIN code from, oops, I think it is wrong PIN code, invalid PIN code in this my particular case. And by the way, speaking of the PIN codes and 24 words, Ledger gives me 3 attempts. After that, it wiped out the device. Again, the security procedure. So keeping your 24 words safe somewhere in the place that you can eventually get to is important, because mistakes do happen.
Constantine, is it the same protocol for Trezor?
Yes, yeah. They have just a little bit different. I believe the Trezor will give you 10 attempts and then it wiped out. So there is not lots of possibilities to guess those PIN numbers. Yeah. Like, you can't brute force them. You can do it with a special equipment, try to do it with special equipment. in particularly, it does not. Okay, I'll see if I can get it. Oh, not there. Ledger wallet. Let's see. Forget. I need to just start it again. Oh, I keep forgetting about this. This is my Ledger wallet. It's not always picking up. And, well, and it doesn't work this time. The demo gods do not like me today. Actually, I don't know why it doesn't work. I just tested this morning, but I tested on the PC, not on Mac, unfortunately. I have to look into it why it does not, in this particular case, work. In any case. All right. Any questions so far? Yes.
Are you going to speak about how to store those 24 words? Because that can be a creative process too.
That's true. That's true. I don't think 24 words. It's really creative. I personally not very creative. It's in the safe in the bank. Because that's realistically the place that I have more or less secure place to put it. Yeah. So safe box in the bank is probably. You can maybe be a little bit more creative how you package them. Those 24 words.
But like, I mean, if you worked at the bank and the bank knew you and who you were and that those what those, my God, that just doesn't seem very secure. Like, I mean, you have a lawyer to support you in this case, but couldn't a bank employee just?
It is possible, but think about this. This is all about the central authority. Let's say you keep their gold. They can take gold. Yeah. You keep their cash. They can take cash. So there is. I wouldn't say that we can find ourselves in the world where we cannot trust anyone. Yeah. At some point, somewhere, you have to trust someone. Yeah. In central authority. I'll talk about some different techniques to secure your crypto, a little bit outside of the wallet, but
Can you hear me okay?
yeah, I can hear you. Yeah.
So when you have one of these hardware wallets, you can store numerous types of currencies on them.
Correct.
Would each currency have its own private key?
No. Okay, let me demonstrate something, and this is probably something that we should probably address. Let's see. All right, it's big. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Yeah, Trezor has longer pin. It forces you in 6. Ledger gives you 4. So again, let me just go back. The Trezor supports right now these cryptocurrencies. You probably recognize them. Ledger supports more than that, but the seed is the same. Let me show you how it really works on here. For example, here we generate out 12 words, and one of the things that I do, I have a choice here to generate it for Bitcoin, Bitcoin Test, Bitcoin Gold, for example, and I have a different key. You see they have a different address format. Yeah. I can generate it for Dash. But the 12 words always the same. Let me just maybe go back a little bit. Here's how this really works. You take these C24 words then it generates master private key, and out of the master private key it generates tons of public keys or tons of private keys, and you basically substitute the coin. So it works for most of the coins. If they follow these BIP32, BIP39, BIP44 as a standards, it will work for them. But from your practical use, from your practical standpoint, what I recommend you to stick with the cryptocurrencies that's supported by hardware wallet. Primarily because it's not that technically straightforward to construct a new cryptocurrency. It's quite involved process. It requires lots of testing. And the Trezor and Ledger, they do have means to support it. If they support it, they already tested. Yeah. So I prefer not to be too inventive when it comes to different cryptocurrencies. So I'm sticking with the basically Trezor, if called. If you do Ledger, they support way longer list of cryptocurrencies. Just don't remember all of them, but you can look them up. Yeah, I don't see it. Cryptocurrencies. Yes. Yeah. So this is what they support. Quite a long list. This is a Ledger. Yeah.
Oh, ledger.
Yeah. This is a Ledger. You can look it up. They add them on the regular basis, so it's quite fluid from their side. All right. Okay, so remote attack. All right. Any other questions? Yeah.
Sorry, I think it's worth mentioning that both wallets would support all of the ERC20, like all of the Ethereum tokens.
Yes, but I'm not sure about the representation of this. Like the Ledger, Trezor, for example. Unfortunately, Ledger doesn't work for me today. But these guys, if I go and I choose Ethereum, okay, what it does, it just redirects me to my Ethereum wallet, and whatever my Ethereum wallet supports in terms of the RC token and so on and so forth, so you can do it. Again, just the key point that your private key is here. You interact with the My Ethereum wallet exactly the same way. So the big difference is if you don't have a hardware wallet and you interact with My Ethereum wallet, you have to basically put or your password or your the C24 words, 12 words. Yeah, so they travel through your desktop. And this travel time through the browser and desktop is very dangerous time. Yeah. So if you hold some crypto, spend those $180, buy the wallet, sleep well. Yeah.
Is there someplace locally where you can buy the hardware wallets, or do you have to buy them through their respective websites or Amazon?
The Trezor and Ledger sell them online. Yeah, you can get your own Trezor, and they ship them fairly well. I would say, like I ordered my Trezor and I got them in less than 2 weeks. The same with Ledger. So you just go and order from their website. I don't think it is. They do have shortage sometimes. I think the Trezor will. The next batch is available in March. I'm not sure about the Ledger, but you can go and buy directly from them.
I heard for Nano Ledger S that good idea to first transfer small amounts to see if it's working, because some of them that have been hacked or something, that if you transfer money, it may disappear.
Right. Speaking of these type of hacks, this is another thing about the hardware wallet. So let's suppose I bought this hardware wallet from somebody else. How do I know it is not tampered? It's a good question. How do I know? So the design of the ledger and Trezor is a little bit different inside. They have a little bit different philosophy of securing the private keys. Ledger is generally more like a hardware company that designs the different type of hardware that protects secrets in general. Yeah, not necessarily hardware wallets. The engineers they have been working primarily with the securing the credit cards and passports. They are from France, EU. So both of those devices, they have the firmware checksum. Basically, if someone substitute this the firmware, let's say on the Trezor, it's easier to do than on Ledger. I'm not actually sure if you can do it in Ledger. Actually, put anything there. But on the Trezor, I know if you do, and if it is not officially signed firmware, it will give you a warning. Like every time you plug it in, it says warning, warning, the firmware is not original and not signed by the manufacturers. The reason they did that, they allow you to put your own firmware because they keep it completely open source. You can go on GitHub for the Trezor and download the entire source code for the firmware, the hardware design, the specs, everything. Ledger is more secretive in this respect. Yeah, they basically keep, but they are more hardware oriented. They have specialty chips there. I don't believe you can basically take and put your own firmware, at least not like amateur hacker. Again, you have to have a specialty knowledge, specialty equipment to do so. A little bit harder, but basically they all have this mechanism of protecting you from third-party firmwares. It has to be the cryptographically signed. Yeah, so look at this warning signs if you see the warning. Okay. So otherwise, it's pretty secure in this respect. Yes. Yeah.
These devices, what are they actually? I mean, is there a company that's have a database of your public and private keys, or is this a thing that generates the keys for you, and that's it? If you lose this device, you're toast.
Pretty much.
Okay.
There is no central place when they give it. And again, the hardware wallets manufacturers specifically go and they warn you actually on their website several times, we do not hold the private keys. We can't recover it. If you lost your 24 words, we just can't recover it. This is not, yeah.
So, I mean, the private key is the thing that you really need, right? I mean, if you have, I mean, the private key is basically the hashed whatever code or version of your 12 words or 24 words.
Yeah, this is, yeah.
If you have, let's say you took your photo.
This is how it looks
or
like.
You cut and paste it and just put it on a document, and you have it on a piece of paper. So if you have the private key, but you've lost your device, can you somehow get in somewhere to access your Bitcoin, your crypto?
Yeah, that's a demonstration of that. So I basically put my 24 words here. Let's see. Here's my text editor. So here's my 24 words that I used for this guy. Let's see if I can basically. All right, so we basically need to know this is a BIP49. This is the addresses we generate. And my address, oh, it's calculating. What's going on? Okay, so it's BIP49, which I will show you. So the address here is D4 capital YA, yeah? Let's take a look what we have in our Ledger wallet, receive. Oh, I have to basically 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Right, confirmation. So it is D for Y. We can just basically copy paste it. And this is the first sort of. Oh. And see if they are the same. They appears to be the same. I just think, how can I make it a little bit? Yeah, just want to make it a little bit. Oh, there you go. It's just a little bit. So this is how I recover. This is basically with this online tool, but this is what happens in the back end with the hardware wallet. Again, the ledger will produce the same address for us.
So really you don't need that wallet, you really just need the code.
Yeah, but if I know your code,
If you lose your wallet.
all right. So speaking of losing the wallet, so and ideal wallet setup. How do we deal with all of the circumstances that we might face in this? All right. So what would be ideal wallet setup? So it will be web-based, preferably, so we can easily access it. Yeah. We'll have 3 hardware wallets, ideally from different manufacturers. With 3 wallets would basically mitigate 2 things: device loss. If we lose it, it is we can basically use another device. And the second one is firmware issue. We might have a problem with the ledger, or we might have a problem with the Trezor. They might go out of business, so we should be able to recover without that. So this is basically a general principle of security. But that's a physical security of our device. How the logical about that? Let's say if someone still find out our 24 words, like a banker. So ideal it's multi-sign wallet. Yeah. So you will have 2 out of 2. Let's say if you operating this one, and you will have 1 on Trezor, 1 of Ledger. Not as convenient to operate, because you have to plug both of them, confirm the transactions, do the setup. But in this case, if you have private key in one bank, private key in another bank, really banks need to collude. Way harder. Way harder. Okay. And this is basically from the set. How about the loss? What we can do, we can create the multi-sign wallet with the lock time. Meaning, like if after 12 months, we did not touch our account, it basically switch, and the hardware wallet number 4 is in force. Before 12 months, hardware wallet number 4 cannot execute anything. You can give it to your lawyer, and in case of something happened to you in 12 months, lawyer will go and open it up, or give it to your wife or significant other, or what have you. So in this case, you have the mechanism to secure yourself from the physical loss of the device, and from the remote attacks becomes way harder execute. Yeah, local attacks becomes way harder because you have 2 wallets right now to crack instead of 1, and 2 different manufacturers. And you have a multi-signature contract. Yeah, if something happens with you, you know that there is a 4th device or the 3rd device that will go in force after 12 months, let's say, or maybe 24 months, what have you. Because the alternative of cracking your password is worse. You may never crack it again. Yeah. Questions? Yeah. Oh, sorry.
So, you buy a hardware wallet and then, you want to make a purchase, so you generate your private key, correct?
At the beginning, any hardware wallet will basically present you a welcome message, and you will go through the ritual of generating 12 words or 24 words, and then Trezor and Ledger will force you to repeat them. So how ideal setup works? You buy basically 2 of those devices, okay? And it is, I've done it several times. It is about an hour of ordeal. I have to say, it is an hour of ordeal. But you generate your, the device will force you to generate private key. You don't have to take the first one. You can generate several, yeah? And then basically settle on one. Then you write down this phrase and you recover on the other device. So 2 things happened. Number 1, you know for sure you can recover. And number 2, you have a backup right now. That's a simple setup, 2 devices. You put one in the bank and keep one. It is simple. Because multi-sign wallet is a little bit more complicated, more involved. It requires coordination. You need to get special software and so on and so forth. It's a little bit harder to operate. But recover your 24 words a couple times on 2 or 3 different devices and you know for sure you can recover. Yes?
Sorry for asking so many questions. The way I understand it is that the purpose of music, even if someone has your words, they would need your PIN code and the Trezor.
No.
Correct? No? Okay.
No, because again, I just generated this. Yeah. So I will go basically through the recovery procedure of your 24 words. Not even on a hardware wallet. I can use this Electrum or any other wallet that supports those 3 standards. I can basically copy paste them as I did right now, and here is all generated. It's really in seconds. So when you generate those, why the hardware wallet is so convenient for generating? Because it goes offline, meaning that the Trezor and the Ledger will show words here on the small screen. They will never show up on the computer. You actually have to manually write them down. In meaning that if you're in a room and nobody with you, and my computer is compromised, I still don't see it, because it never really touches the actual computer. The private key never leaves the device, and when you generate it, it generates here. The other thing, when you write it down on the piece of paper, you fold it and you put it in the bank, and immediately you go and recover it on the other device. Again, it never really touches the screen. You do it manually. With the Ledger, it's a little bit more cumbersome, I would say, but I mean, it's about an hour for both devices. Yeah.
The phrase, for instance, on the your passphrase, instead of buying wallets, I mean, which can get kind of expensive, you just copy your phrase 3 or 4 times and put it in separate areas?
You can, but again, it does not prevent you from. You can do it. You can do it. But then, how you access the funds if you need to transact?
But couldn't you just buy another one? Like then you could buy one.
Yeah. You can do it.
Buying 3 first and then
That-
spend that money.
No, you can do it. Yeah,
Okay.
you can do it. You can buy later. But again, it's just
Yeah.
if you decide to leave this in the crypto, if you think the crypto is useful because of those properties, it's probably worthwhile to invest money.
And the phrase and the code are one and the same, right? The words and the hash code are one and the same.
What do you mean by hash code?
The private key that spits out right there.
Yeah, the basic.
And the phrases are the one and the same. Or?
They are the same, yeah. So basically what the software does, it takes this mnemonic code, converts it into the BIP39 seed. Out of the seed, it generates root key, root private key. And out of the root private key, I generated different permutations. In my particular case, BIP49, basically, it just gives me the SegWit-based addresses. BIP44, it's a new SegWit addresses. And I can basically generate other coins, yeah.
And this website, you can operate it offline?
You probably can. You know what? I do. But I would say I would trust more Ledger or Trezor to generate randomness than anything else. buy personally.
One more thing. I have a friend that bought some Bitcoin a long time ago.
Yeah.
And he has his words. And I said, okay, this is going to be fun. Let's try this. We get this address. There's no previous transactions. And so my next step is to go into this and see if this address is showing up. And I can see the previous addresses, and maybe there might be previous transactions.
In this particular mnemonic code converter?
Yeah.
No, this is basically a technical tool. It just shows you the addresses, public key and private keys, mostly for developers. Like this is not a wallet. Yeah, because what happens with the wallets, it's a whole bunch of inputs and outputs. So when you log into the wallet, it has to basically combine all unspent outputs and put them together and present it as a single number. But it does it basically at the back end. But to your point, if you know 24 words and you have device, you pretty much punch it into the hardware wallet.
So it's not unusual that we can. Okay, so yeah, so the wallet will show the. I mean, if you generate a wallet, you'll see and you've done some transactions, you'll see them. But if you make a new wallet with those words, you won't see the previous transactions.
Or you will, because it is the same thing.
So I guess we can talk later about that.
Yeah, you will. It is the same thing. Because, again, what happens with the wallet, when I feed them these 24 words, it just goes through this process of translating those 24 words into the actual addresses, these addresses. And then it goes onto the Bitcoin network and say, okay, do I have unspent outputs on this address? Yes or no? If yes, I will add it to like a change, like boom, 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 and eventually I basically present it. But when you present it, you can see it, but in order to spend them, you need to have a private key. Yeah. And at the end of the day, 24 words generate your private keys. And everything else derives from that. Like the public keys and addresses, it's just derivation from the private key.
So would it be mysterious that this account, I mean, he bought a coffee. He bought enough Bitcoin to buy a coffee.
Okay.
He bought the coffee. He still has the 12 words.
Mm-hmm.
We're not talking about a lot of money, but we want to see the previous transactions, and we restored the wallet on multiple different, many different wallets, and it will say zero Bitcoin and no previous transactions, and I don't know why.
Oh, right now, if he had the funds in the past, maybe not all wallets will go and query the. Because what they do, they basically ask the address, do you have a Bitcoin there? Address say, no, I don't. I ignore you. Okay. It's not going into history. What you can do, you can go and explore blockchain, like take the, for example, address that was generated and see what the history happened, and you will see the transactions happen to this address. I don't have anything there, but the blockchain explorer, like blockchain info, is probably the most widely used API. Oh yeah. So if you basically, let's see. So what you can do, let's see. Let's take this address, for example. And I can go and paste this address. And it's just not giving me the what I want. I don't know why it's. Oh, I should. So, and basically what I see with this address is this is the address, this is basically the hash. And I see all the transactions that happened in the past on this address. But the wallet probably is not going to show you the empty ones, because it's too much work for the wallet. Yeah.
We did this too, and it still says zero transactions. So
Oh, okay. So in this case, wrong address.
yeah.
Yeah. So I don't know. I had to look into how the recovery works. But in case. Any other questions?
buying cryptocurrencies, say you're buying Bitcoin,
Mhm.
you have to go on an exchange to get it?
Probably.
Okay. And then your wallet only keeps your passwords.
No, it keeps the bitcoins. Yeah, when you bought it on exchange, you basically withdraw your bitcoin from exchange.
Okay.
Yeah, by going and giving the exchange this address and say I would like to withdraw bitcoin, and we'll send to this address. That's basically how it works.
So I have a question.
Yeah.
So the HD wallets, that's hierarchical deterministic
Yeah.
wallets, they generate a new address for every new transaction, incoming transaction.
All right. So I I didn't want to overload this this much. So, okay, let me just. This is the HD wallet. The BIP39. This is HD wallet. Yeah, hierarchical deterministic wallet. But the HD wallet is not about generating new transaction. Is to establish the protocol by which we basically construct the tree of public and private keys. So, generation of new addresses is different problem. They're not related. I'll explain the. So you see, it generates me tons of the addresses here right away, and there is a special path. Yeah, see the path is a little bit different for each address here, and it's just because in your wallet, one address, one transaction, and the reason the Bitcoin does one address, one transaction. If you can reuse the address, but then the possibility of identifying you or your privacy is going way worse. And the second, in certain circumstances, the guessing of your private key becomes easier. It's not that it is easy, but it becomes a bit easier. So for two reasons, automatically all wallets generate the new address for each new transaction. So you will have tons of addresses in your wallet. It's just the wallets usually hide it from us. Like if, for example, change addresses will be hidden and so on and so forth.
So my question is, what happens if I get 5 incoming transactions? So it means I have 5 addresses, and when I need to make one outgoing transaction, which is like more than I have in one address, how many transactions here I'm going to take?
All right. So there are two processes what happens. Transaction arrives and you spend. Until you spend from this address, it's okay if you have like a million transactions. Yeah. So you basically, people cannot correlate this address to you. But as soon as you spend from this address, this is the time when this information is revealed. So basically, that's why the principle is, as soon as you spend something, you generate new address. Like in this particular case, we have quite a few transactions. Okay, so the people use it for different reasons. Most likely, those transactions are generated by not by wallets, but by some maybe exchange or the software that shuffles the transactions through. And you can see we have total received almost 9,000 bitcoins, but our balance only 12. So it's sort of a transient account for them, and you see they just spend immediately out of this. But basically two things. One is arriving and the second is spending. It's two independent events. You can receive as many as you want, but as soon as you spend, generate new address, preferably. I understand if you, let's say, receive some payment on the regular basis, like from mining, to generating new address is inconvenient, let's put it this way. Yeah? So you probably give one address and we'll just basically cycle it through. Again, inconvenience, the technical inconvenience basically. Yeah.
How many transaction fees should am I going to pay if I use like 3 addresses where I hold my bitcoins and I need to send one to each?
It does not matter because your transaction fee depends not the address but the actual transaction. Yeah. So if there is 10 transactions on one single address, you will have to pay basically fees based on 10 transactions, regardless. So the fee is mostly related to transaction cost. And in this particular, I don't know, did they outline it here or no? Maybe not really. But think about the transaction is equals fee. The less transactions you have, or let's say less inputs you have, cheaper it's going to be. More inputs you have, more expensive, just occupies more space. But this is probably different conversation of the mechanics of the Bitcoin. Yes.
So how do you have to keep track of your public keys too? Do you have to record those?
Usually not. Yeah, this is what software will do for you. You definitely would like to at least know occasionally your address that you give people. Yeah, if you want to receive money or Bitcoin, you just give them this address or the next address that was generated. But that's it.
That address is showing in your hardware wallet?
Yeah. So basically, when you get here, you show 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Yeah, this guy. I can generate more addresses here.
So that's not your private key, that's your public address.
No, this is eventually it is a private key because everything is derived from my private key. Yeah, it just software calculates it, and this always will be the same. Those addresses will always be the same. They just will be a little bit, you can make different addresses.
So when you were using the HD to create your hashes and everything, your address, your private key, and your public key, the 24 words, they're actually generating the group of 3, the address, the private key, and the public key. Because I just noticed that there was that whole list of alternates, the alternate addresses there. It was just a list of those.
Yeah. So yeah, pretty much. Let's see. Again, maybe I shouldn't show this tool. It's for developers. It's see these addresses. This is the path. Yeah, they're all different. It's just basically to demonstrate this is how they will be generated by the hardware wallet software or for the wallet software at the back end. But you probably should not concern yourself like an end user with this. Like 24 words, this is what I have to keep safe. Don't show anyone. That's basically the message. Yeah. And let's leave the mechanics of this to the software guys. They will deal with this eventually. Maybe they will make it a little bit more convenient for us. Or definitely at some point. You know what? I don't know. I really don't know. I wouldn't say so. Let's put it this way: if Trezor or Ledger had some known exploit, we would know about this very rapidly. Like when the Trezor had this exploit, and again, it's difficult to exploit. It's not that easy to basically. We knew about this right away. So they have different philosophy, different approaches. I find the Trezor a little bit more easier to use, but it is primarily designed for open source hackers. If you want to develop your own variation on the Trezor, you can. Yeah, you can do it with the Ledger as well. It's a little bit harder because the way they package their software, they're a little different philosophy. But inside they have 2 specialized chips. specifically security chips, and the Trezor has one. It's difficult to say which one is. But again, get 2 of them. Get 2 of them. They're not that expensive, really. I mean, if you operate in the crypto.
Exchange gives you a private key.
Hmm?
Does it mean that you own the crypto in that wallet, or could it be that they can put it or anything in your wallet?
Who is they?
Exchange.
Oh, Exchange? No, Exchange doesn't have access to your wallet. You give them address. When you withdraw your funds, you will just give them address of your hardware wallet, and they just send the funds there. That's it.
Let's say I went to Coinbase, paid for that bucks on Ripple,
Mhm.
kept it in my wallet, but I have my recovery phrase or what words, whatever it is, saved it somewhere. Does it mean that I own everything? So that whatever happens to the exchange, I still can't get my money?
I'm not exactly actually sure. Usually, exchanges do not give you opportunity to control your private keys. So, I don't know in your particular example. I know why the exchanges do that, because they need to transact. Yeah, they operate in a little bit different premises. But let's suppose that you have a web wallet that has those 12 words that initially when you open it up it just generates for you or force you to supply. You can do it. Yes, you can do it. But remember, every single time you put those 12 words, you expose them to the world. Right now, the JavaScript is the most common attack. Recently, we had this the vulnerability in I forgot the so the basically vulnerability is exploited by the JavaScript that loaded on the web that looks on your desktops and looking for certain phrases, looking for certain things. So every single time you put those words out, you put yourself at the risk that someone can possibly intercept. Versus with hardware wallet, I generate them on the hardware wallet. I write them by hand, I put them in the bank, and that's it. My private key never touches the world, it's inside of this box. And when I need to sign a transaction, basically send the transactions to this guy, it signs this, and it sends the signed message. Yeah. So that's the difference. The ideal situation, if your web wallets will allow you to use your Trezor and Ledger, and some of them do, to transact. Yeah, but in the same way as Trezor provides you web wallet basically to transact, and Ledger as well.
Any recommendations on a good mobile or PC wallet?
Any recommendation on mobile and PC wallets? I would say probably stay away from the PC wallets. Definitely.
Any brands anything you like?
I just use the hardware wallet, really. I tested before. Again, I'm not following that closely web-based, cell phone-based wallets that much. I just use the hardware wallets myself. Yeah.
Just that for someone trading a lot, it's become rather inconvenient.
I don't know actually. Like for me personally, I prefer the hardware wallets in web rather than the cell phone. I would say the cell phone becomes more convenient for me if I would transact in crypto on a daily basis, and I would expect that I would definitely have my wallet with a Lightning wallet on my phone. That's definitely what I would most likely have, but it is some time away. But I don't see really super use case for me to keep my Bitcoin on the cell phone when I have a hardware wallet. It's too much risk. Too many things can go wrong with my cell phone. Yeah.
Do you have any experience with the Jax wallet?
I did try them in the past. I have not touched them for a long time, so I can't really say. I know that they are one of the popular ones, and they have several offerings, and they're here in downtown Toronto. They will have a new office presentation in 2 days. Yeah.
What about downtown?
Oh, the Jax office here in downtown on Adelaide Street. They are from Toronto, yeah. They develop here. Yeah. Yeah, unfortunately, I didn't try them for a long time, so I can't say. But I know they're one of the most popular ones.
They have both mobile and PC with them.
Yeah, the last time I checked, they had the web, and yeah, they have.
The mobile one is ugly. It doesn't always work well. The PC one is stable, but like you said, it's the security that's down the PC.
A little bit more than I would like to deal with.
Correct.
Yeah.
But I would move it off of that, after like you did some trading, day trading or something, and then you just move everything off into your hardware wallet at the end of the day.
Yeah, pretty much. I store most of it in hardware wallet. Yeah, whatever I'm not interacting.
Maybe one more question and
Yeah.
we'll have to wrap it up.
Okay.
How can we get more women involved with Bitcoin and blockchain?
That's a question for Elena. She knows all women in blockchain.
Attract and educate them. That's very gentle.
And you have.
I just wanted to make a statement that whatever type of wallet that you're looking for or to invest in, you are becoming your own bank, so you can't think of it fundamentally as I'm thinking about $100 security system for my house. You have to think more like from $1 million or $10 million and treat it like that, so you're secure with whatever it is you decide to choose.
That's one last question.
Okay, guys, I suggest that we'll take it offline because we are streaming right now, and but we are still here. We have some time, so we can network and talk and ask questions. So no problem.
Right. Thank you. All right. Can I disconnect or?